Good morning. Today we're learning Bobby Kama, Daf Nun Ches. So let's go from a few lines down on Nun Ches Omid Aleph we got yesterday. Heichim Noflo. So we said in the Mishnah that an animal, a tzoin, a sheep, a goat fell into someone's garden and they got saved by the strawberries on the bottom. It had a nice landing. So it pays ma shenenes. It pays the anah of saving from breaking its legs. It saves that. It doesn't pay how much strawberries are worth. So how did it fall down? Rav Kahana Omar she'uchleko b'meimei reglo, that slipped on its urine of the sheep. Rav Omar she'doch fosoch haverto, her friend sheep pushed her down to the garden. Man the Omar, the one who says she'doch fosoch haverto, kol shekein she'uchleko b'meimei reglo. If already she'doch fosoch haverto, that's a common thing. We say she only pays mashenenes. So even more so, uchleko b'meimei reglo, when she slipped on her urine, that's more of a oinus. It's more of a, as Rashi says, it's oinsa de lo yisal kadaiteu. It's something that's uncommon. Even more so, you won't have to pay mashe ziko. Man domar shuchleko b'meimei reglo, the one who explains our mission that somehow it's a very uncommon case where it slipped on its urine. Aval doch fosoch haverto, but if a friend pushed her, posha. The owner of the poishea or mishalemes mashe ziko, it's something that's common, and you have to pay more than mashenenes. You have to pay the damage. It's called the omalei, that the owner of the garden tells the owner of this flock, you should have you should have passed them next to my garden where it's dangerous, where they could fall in one by one. Why did you put them 2 by 2 or 3 by 3? They pushed each other. You're poishea, you need to pay ma shehiziko. Omar Rav Kahana, says Rav Kahana, lo yishonu elo ba'ois haruga. So we said the chiddush that it fell and it ate, you only have to pay mashe nenes and not mashe ziko. Only, let's say, 8 strawberries that cost 20 shekel for a kilo, and I would feed it a kilo of hay that cost a shekel a kilo. So I pay him a shekel because he saved me lunch of this animal. I won't pay. I would never give strawberries to my goat to eat. It's very expensive. Avol aruga, if it fell in and ate that aruga very good. And aruga went from one line in the field to another line in the field to a different area. Mishalemes mashe ziko. Now it's already called a normal shen and it has to pay mashe ziko. Rabbi Yochanan is cholik. Even if it went from one area in the field to another area, even if it ate all day, didn't stop eating over there, you always only pay mashenenes ad sheteitze v'tachzoi lo das, until it will leave the field and then go back in without falling in, and then you have to pay mashe ziko. But until it leaves, you pay mashenenes. Omar, Papa, Loitema, don't say that this Rabbi Yochanan said, Achetesi ledas, v'tachzu ledas, that you only have to pay mashe ziko if you left midas and then came back midas. Elo, kevan sheyotzo ledas, since it's already, the owner knew that he left, sheyotzo ledas, sheyodu beyitzioso, afal pi shechozor sheloi ledas, even though that he left, it came back, it slipped again into the garden like before, it fell down a second time. Then you still won't pay. Then if even you'll pay mashe ziko, no mashe nenes, at the second time. Why? My timer, the omalei, the owner of this garden, tells the owner of the sheep, Kevin the Alpha, since he learned Yolfa, I think it's like Yolif, to learn. Since you learned that this field has delicious strawberries, Kol Egos the Mishtantele Osam Rato, whenever he could get there, he'll run away to there and he'll fall in especially and he'll get in anyway. So therefore, want to learn about the location of these secret tasty strawberries, you have to do a shmira ma'ula to make sure he won't go back in. So there Rabbi Yochanan said Yotzer Ladas, the Chazra means the Yitzia was Ladas, but the Chazara is even Shaloi Ladas. Yordo Kedarko Veziko Mishalemes Masheziko. It says, we said in the Mishnah, that if you fail, it pays Mashanenes, but if you just walked into someone's field and ate it, Mishalemes Masheziko. The classic case of Shem. Boy Ravimi asked the Shaila, Yordo Kedarko Veziko Bemeledo. It went down the normal way, and then it had a baby in the field, and the water of the pregnancy damaged the fruit of this person. Now, Aliba demando malefi the shito who hold tchilosoi b'pshia, when the person is the beginning of the pshia, they walked into his field, the soifu b'oines, and machmas apshia happened here oines that she had a baby in the field. Chayev. So it's no lefi the mando omar who holds chayev, there's no shaila, for sure you'll be chayev for the damage you caused with the baby being born here and the damage I was caused from the water. Loti boiloch, I have no shaila. Kiti boiloch, my whole shaila is aliba demandoma tchiloso b'shia v'soifa boines potter lefi the mandoma holds. If tchiloso b'shia and at the end it's oines your potter, mate. What do we see over here? Mi amrinan came in the tchiloso b'shia v'soifa boines potter. So therefore, see here, it's Tchilosa B'Pshia and it's Soifa Boinis, I had a baby and therefore will be potter. You won't have to pay for the damage of the water of the pregnancy. Oidilma, maybe it's different. Hocha Kula B'Pshia, here it's considered fully B'Pshia. Why? Came on the Kochozi, the Krevel and Meilad, since you see this sheep is very close to having a baby, in Boilil, in Tura, you should keep it. Guard it, I shouldn't go into other people's field. And to guard it very well, it's a different type of lotion of shmira, rashet li shomer uli zorbo. So therefore it's tchilosa b'pshia. Soifa b'pshia because I shouldn't be choishesh you'll have a baby on someone's crop, and therefore he will damage it. Therefore it's tchilosa b'pshia, soifa b'pshia that everyone's masking yichayah. So the Gemara Tishbi Yitaret Kushias v boys. We don't have an answer for this suffix. But if I'm not mistaken, we anyway paskin tchilosa b'pshia soifa b'oines chayev. So anyway, you'll be chayev over here. Keitzad mishalemesh mashe ziko. We said a great chiddush in the Mishnah. They don't measure the fruit by itself. You measure it with other fruit and then you pay less. Meaning you ate, let's say, a kilo of tomatoes. You don't measure this kilo of tomatoes by itself. You measure it keneged beisah. We'll see already how you do it exactly. So, mili, it's a big chiddush. Says the Gemara, Omar Rav Masna, the Omar Kra steht in Pasuk, Ubir bisteacher. It says that he took the animal, he made it eat in a different field. And we're learning from this different field, Melamed, Shishomim, that you do the estimation, Al-Gab, Besod Acher. That Besod Acher means that when you pay, you do it Besod Acher on other, not by itself, how much you ate a kilo, you estimate a kilo in a Besod, like we're going to see. Said the Gemara, we need that to bir b'steachar, to tell you that Shem is only chayiv in someone else's field, not in a public place. So how could you learn from this words b'steachar to tell me another drasha that you don't check the value of the fruit by themselves? Said the Gemara, no. Im kein lichte rachmano bir b'steachar vero, you should say, and he ate in his friend's field. Why did it say b'stei acher? It's coming to tell you this other drasha as well. Inami, another thing, stei acher. It should say ubir stei acher, my boso de acher. Why did I have this extra base? It's coming to tell you shesomim al gabe so de acher. It's coming to tell you this thing. Says the Gemara, question ve'ema kulei lehocho de osa. Maybe the whole chiddush of ubir b'steacher is coming to tell you that you estimate it not a kilo of tomatoes by itself, you estimate it al gabe sodeacher. La'afukir Rishus Rabbi Minolon. How do we know maybe that if he ate shen in Rishus Rabbim in a public place that you're potter? How do we know? Maybe ubir b'steacher is only coming to tell you that tashlumim you estimated keneged sodeacher, but where you chayiv everywhere Rishus Hayochid and Rishus Rabbim. Says the Gemara in Cain, lichte v'rachmona gabe tashlumim. If the whole din of ste'acher is a din of how do you pay, it should say it about in the payment. It should say meitav sodeu, meitav kar yishalem. You should pay the best, but ste'acher, and how do you estimate it to a bigger amount? Lomole dikos v'rachmona gabe ubria. Why did the Torah write it when it was eating? About in the eating part, not about the payment part that your animal ate. Shema Minot Tarati, it's coming to tell you, first of all, that you only chayev in Rishus Hanizak, in a private property, if your animal ate, and not in Rishus Rabbim. And another thing is that how do you estimate it, the payment? You don't estimate the kilo by itself, you estimate it keneged another bigger part of the field. And we're going to see straight away how you do that. So in the Mishnah it says, you measure beiso. How do you do it? Omar Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina. Rabbi Yosef Bar Chanina says, so b'shishim soy. So we're going to go to a few Rashi's pshat. It's a big chiddush. Rashi says that you do two estimations. Rashi says you take a saw is a type of size, and you measure how much. So let's call a saw acre just to make things a bit simpler, but obviously it's a different size. So let's say you take an acre. Now an acre by itself is a small amount, or saw at least is a small amount. And if you sell it by itself, it's very small. The only person who could buy it is a poor person. Or someone who's rich, or even an average person wouldn't buy such a small piece of land. And when a poor man buys, he pays expensive. That's the way it is, because he can't afford, he doesn't have options. That's all he could afford. So he'll buy anything for any price that he could afford, and he'll buy it. So a saw by itself is expensive. So therefore, you take 60 saw, and you say, 60 saw is worth 60,000 shekel. So how much is a saw worth? 1,000 shekel. And now it ate a kilo in this saw, in this space saw, in the space of a saw. So we measure how much is a field of 1,000 shekel worth if you sell it with that kav and without that kav, without this kilo, without that kilo, and that's how much the mazik has to pay to the nizak. But if you'd estimate the saw by itself, would be worth much more than 1,000 shekel, because only Ani could buy it, it would be worth 3,000 shekel. And therefore, if you'd measure a kilo on that 3,000 shekel, it would be worth more as well. Let's see the Rashi inside. Eichi shaiminan lebeisod masnisin. So b'shishim soy. Ahai beisod ektonim masnisin. This is what it says in the Mishnah beisod. The b'shvil aruga achas, that for one area showing beisod, la beisod ba'apei nafsho shaiminan. And it's not that we estimate it by itself in one beisod. The mak chashinan le mazik. It comes out the mazik will pay expensive. Why? Lefisha beisod in keres b'yoika. One beisor by itself is sold expensively. Lefisha motu, it's a small amount. Ve'eino imotzu limocha, and it's not common to be sold by itself. Ve'oni shein yodei maseges lidmei karka gdoila, and a poor person who can't afford a big field, koine oiso b'yoisim edoma, he pays the expensive premium for this small amount of field. Ve'karachas aruga, and a bold patch of aruga of kavoi kabayim, chashuv olei lefidomov. He'll calculate it very strong because he's paying a high price. Ella, what do you do? Shomim shishim soim, kama shovim, how much a 60 saw worth? V'roim kama domim magim lebeiso, and then you do 60 divided to 60. So let's say it's worth 60,000. 60 saw and divide to 60 is 1,000. V'choizrim, and then we take this 1,000 for showing kama nifres udoma b'shvil karachas arugazu. Yeah. Okay, very good. Rabbi Yanai said a different chat. Tirka b'shishim tirkavim, not 6 saw b'shishim soim. Tirkav is half a saw, and Shishim Tirkavim is then 30 saw. Tirkav is half a saw. So you do that measurement the same like Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, but just in half of that. And Chizkiyo Maklach B'Shishim Klochim. However much you ate, you measure it times 60. How much if, let's say you ate a kilo of tomatoes, so you don't measure a kilo by itself. You say someone was buying 60 kilos and then the guy tells him, oh, I only have 59. How much would he put down the price? That's how much he needs to pay. And Tosis asks, Lefiz's pshat, does it make sense in the Mishnah? It says the Loshen saw. Maybe Lefi, the first pshat of the first shitta, Rashi fits in that it says in the Mishnah base saw because you measure two measurements. One is 60 to one saw, and then one saw to the how much you ate, and therefore it makes sense. The Mishnah mentioned the Loshen of saw. But if you the 2 second shittas, why did it say in the Mishnah saw? So Tosis has a whole different mahalach. I'm not going to go into it. Meisiv fragt die Gemara Kasha, steht in Breise, ochlo kavo ikapayim, ate 1 kav or 2 kav, we don't say we estimate how much this kav or kavayim are worth. We look at it as a small patch in the field, and you measure and you estimate it. Fragt die Gemara, my lab b'fnei atzmo, don't you do it by itself, nothing to do with a bigger amount of shishim like we said before, and we said before you measure it b'shishim. Says the Gemara, lo, b'shishim, when it means m'sharim oiso, and then you estimate the saruga b'shishim, but not by itself, and therefore we have no shaila. Ton Rabbanon learned, ein shomim kav mipnei shemashbichoi. So you don't measure a kav b'fnei shemashbichoi. V'loi beiskuru, kav a small amount of space of produce. V'loi beiskuru, and not beiskuru, that's a very big amount. B'fnei shepoigmoi. It doesn't say who's mashbichoi, who's poigmoi. So the Gemara, my comment, what does this price mean? So Omar Papa, Ochi comment, this is pshat. Ein shom kav b'shishim kavim. If you ate a kav, you don't estimate it in shishim kavim and see how much shishim kavim is worth and how much this kav is worth. Why? Because then the mazik will have to pay very little. Says Rashi, the shishim kavim ein lo mecher. No one wants to buy this amount of shishim kavim. It's too much for a poor person. And it's too small for average person. The kol shekin osha, and for a rich person you never even look at it. And another point is that the karachas, a bald patch of 1 kav, and keresh b'shin kav, you don't even see it when you sell it like that with this bald patch. No one's even going to see it and make any difference, and therefore the mazik won't have to pay he'll have to pay very little. V'loi kur b'shishim kurim. If you ate a kur tuvua, Rashi says, ein shon oisa b'shishim kurim. Why? Mipnei shepoige mazik. Says Rashi, mipnei shepoige mazik, lefi she'odam ha'mishupa b'nechosim. Someone who's rich, he wants to buy a big plot of land. He'll pay much more than its value, because normally you could buy a few acres. Suddenly there's a piece of land for 50 acres for sale. Someone who's rich, I want this to build my mansion over there. It's very big. So, lefi this pshat, we say we don't measure kav, that's a very small amount, because then you'll pay nearly nothing. You don't measure saw a base kur because it's very big and therefore the mazik will have to pay very much. Elo Rashi says you measure kol saw b'fnei kol saw, that's a middle measurement between base kur and kav. So in between that you measure b'shishim. Matkif lo Rav Huna bar Manoyach. Rav Huna bar Manoyach asking question Rav Papa, how could this be pshat in a brayso? Ahai v'loi beis kur v'loi kurmi boile. If this is pshat in the brayso, let's see the brayso again. Ton Rabbanon ein shomim kav b'fnei shemashbichoi and then it should continue veloi kur. If you mean that ate a kur, that the amount they ate, it should say veloi kur mifnei shepoigmoi. Why did it say base kur? Base kur is like a measurement of land, no measurement of produce. So does it make sense or a purpose pshat? Mati flor avona bar manoyach, hai veloi base kur veloi kur mi boile. Elo amar avona bar manoyach. He said a new pshat. Mishmei de Rav Acha berei de Rav Ika. He said it in the name of Rav Acha, the son of Rav Ika. Ochiktoni. This is pshat in the Brisa. Ein shon kav bifnei atzmo. You don't measure if you ate a kav bifnei atzmo. I will not keneged shishim. That just see how much a kav's worth without. Here, not here, meaning. How much is a kav worth by itself? Then the nizak can get paid very well, and we said and don't measure how much is a base kur worth with this kav and without this kav. Then the nizak won't get paid anything because the base kur is a massive area. No one really cares about a little kav in the base kur. Elo b'shishim, you always measure 60 times the amount they ate. Okay. How Gavra? This man, the Kotz Kashbet Minchabre, he cut off a palm tree of his friend. Also, like I made the Reish Galusa, the Reish of the Galusa was always someone who was called the Reish Galusa. And they came in front of him and he paskin, what did it? Omalei, so the Reish Galusa said, Ledidi Chozili, I saw these palm trees. The Glossa Talosa Bekinavu, and they were three. Calling there till there were three palm trees, one next to each other. I estimate that there were worth three of them together, 100 zuz. So, how much did you cut off? One tree. Zil, go, havle, pay him. Pelting, 30. Betlothe on 3. Betilthe on a third. Because, as everyone knows, 100 divided to 3 is 33.333333. Atzoi fa'olam kuloi. So therefore pay 33.3. Omar Gabi. Omar, and so the Mazik said, Gabi Rish Galusa de Doin Dine de Parasol Omali. This guy, this Rish Galusa, who's paskening like Parasoim, like the Persians. He's not paskening the Torah. I don't want it, because he thought he deserves to pay. They estimate the palm tree in 60, and that's cheaper than in 3. Also, he came into front of Rav Nachman, he told him, yeah, how much is 60 palm trees together worth? If less than the value of 3 to 100 tools. And then you damaged one, then we estimate it. So, Rav Nachman said a great chiddush, that this din of Beshishim applies also for someone who's mazik, not only when you behave a mazik. Rava didn't really like it. Amale Rava, Imam Rubeniskim Amoinoi, very good, we said a special chiddush Ubirbis Teacher, that you estimate the Keneged Shishim. Beniskim Amoinoi, when my cow ate fruit in your field, Yoru Beniski Gufoi, is this the same applicable also when you're mazik with your own hands? Amale Abaile Rava. So, Rav Nachman doesn't seem like he answered. Rabbi told Rava, Beniske Gufoi my daitoch. Where is Uriah that Yuniske Gufoi he pay by itself and you don't estimate it Keneged Shishim? Because you have a brisa. And then Rabbi is going to say, I also have a brisa about Niske Mamoina that says a similar thing. And Elomai means Beshishim, so also here means Beshishim. So let's see it inside. My daitoch Titania, it says a mafkir karmashel chaveris mador, someone who destroys someone's vine of grapes, smado, when they're still unripe, they're not ready yet. We see how much this vine was worth before the damage. What the value after you cause the damage. And that's how much you pay. And that's Thomas Odom Mazik, Ve'ilu Beshishim Loik Toni. And it doesn't say whether they estimate the Beshishim. So Robert, that's Uriah that by Niske Gufoy doesn't pay Beshishim. Otu gabe be'emto miloi tanya kai gavna. I'll bring you raya also by behema. When behema is matik, it doesn't say beshishim, and we still say it means beshishim. So also by Adam it means beshishim. The Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, kitma netio is animal damaged, unrooted a baby netia. Rabbi Yossi says, the Rabbanon in Yerushalayim who had fixed payments for things. They say, netia bashnosal, if she was a year old, this baby tree, shtei kesef, you have to pay 2 kesef. Bashtei shonim, if she was 2 years old, arba kesef, you pay 4 kesef, a fixed price. Ochlo chaziz, 8, let's say, wheat. That's not yet wheat, it's still in its first stages. It's called chaziz shachas. Rabbi Yossi, you look how much it's worth when it would be fully grown, and that's how much you need to pay. Very expensive. Because now it's only not Meshuya, now it's not yet fully grown. You see how much the field would be worth to sell with the shachas on it, and now after 8 shachas, how much it's worth less, and that's the amount he has to pay. Ochlo smado is, says Rashi, anovim dakim, small grapes, but straight away after the flower period. You look at them as if they fully ripe grapes ready to be taken off the tree, worth much more than they're worth now, obviously. How much this field was worth, and how much it's worth now without the smada on it, much less of a payment. Rab Shimon ben Yehuda, Mishum Rab Shimon ben Medvar Mamurim. When do we say all this? This man when he ate it in literally in the beginning stage, where it's not even a fruit anymore yet. A very basic stage of the fruit. But if it ate when it was a later stage, it's still unripe, but it's already unripe, but it's already much more stronger. Already you can see over here a little bit of a fruit. Then you do measure it and you look at it as if it's fully ready fruit, and you estimate it in that value. So Rab Shimon holds, so we had your Rab Shua holds that you look at it as if only botza. Chacham say kama yofa v'kama yofa on the field. Rab Shimon says depends what we're talking about. Yes, but it says clearly in the Brisa, how much it was worth at the beginning, and how much it's worth now after the damage is done. And it doesn't say that you measure it b'shishim, and we said clearly over here a bunch of shit to say you measure it b'shishim. What's pshat? Hello, why are you going to explain me b'shishim? Ochinami b'shishim. So, what's pshat? You're saying, like over here when it said that you measure it by itself, it means, yeah, you measure it by itself, but b'shishim, how much it's worth in 60. So also, over here by Odom Amazik, when it says they measure it kama yofa v'kama yofa, also means b'shishim. And therefore, Rava, you don't have no kasha on Rav Papa, on Rav Nachman, who said that the Odom Amazik also does b'shishim. L'chora, I didn't have a look into this, but l'chora, it's very shver. So okay, until here, the sugya is very good, the Gemara answered the question. But l'chora, Rava has a very good question, Rav Nachman. The whole chiddush that we estimated, Agabe Soda Acher, is only when you do it when the Torah is mechadish ubir b'ste'acher, a special Gzeras HaKosa, they estimated al gabe Soda Acher. But Odom Amazik, we never had such a kulodika Gzeras HaKosa. So where do you learn it from? That you should say that you estimated b'shishim. Should all have a beautiful day.